Here's a little info on my winter cover that I put together. I wanted to keep it somewhere between simple and a well done job, and I think I accomplished that. So here's what I did. This is a Hunter 356, basically the same hull as a Hunter 36. As you can see, the mast was left up. The dinghy, or my inflatable, was on the foredeck, and on top of the inflatable was a radial arm saw so I could do all the cutting while on board, and I didn't have to travel up and down the ladder to cut each piece of lumber. It rained on and off all day, and I had to keep it covered. After using a couple halyards to help me raise the first pieces in place, I wrapped all the lines leading from the top of the mast around the forestay, including the topping lift. The backbone of the structure was made from 2 by 4 by 8, and the supports and the ribs and legs were cut from 2 by 3 by 8 to save on weight. Now at the mast, I did not box it in. I found that this became a weak point, and it was much better to run lumber straight past the mast using a foam pad and a bungee cord to hold it at that point while I got the rest of the structure up. I certainly didn't want to use tuck tape, which is what most people use to hold their canvas together, and which I do too, but there have been a number of people that use it around the mast, and in the summer or in the spring they cannot get the tuck tape cleanly off their mast and leave an awful red ring around the mast. The fall ratio of these ribs differed from the stern to the bow because of the arch across the cockpit. So I tied a line from the stern rib to the bow rib in order to get the fall line. I then cut each leg so that the rib would fall along this line. This way the canvas would fall evenly from the stern to the bow. All the braces and leg ties were cut from 1 by 3 lumber, and the screws used were deck screws so that they wouldn't rust. All sharp edges on the lumber were rounded off with a sander so that the canvas would not chafe at those points. The ends of each rib, which were rounded, were covered with indoor-outdoor carpet to prevent chafing with the canvas. The ends also overhung the lifelines by at least 6 inches, so the fall from the canvas would fall on the outside of the hull and clear the stanchions. I have heard of cases where canvas resting on these lifeline stanchions have literally sheared them off when the strong winter winds come by and beaten them for months. So I didn't want to put them under any load. My tarps were in 3 parts. Tarp number 1 and 2 were 20 by 30, and the third tarp, which was at the stern, was 15 by 20, I think. Tarp number 1 was the only one that was cut or slit at the places where the shrouds went through, the mast and the forestay, and I used tuck tape to reseal it behind the shrouds, mast and forestay. Now I also since then have put grommets at these points so I can lace it back up behind the places where they have been cut. And because this is not a perfect seal and there are 3 tarps, it helps with venting underneath this structure. I used a number of 1-gallon jugs to keep the canvas in place, filling each bottle to about 1/3 to less than half or thereabouts, and a line strung through the handle of each bottle helped to stop them from swaying back and forth. This is just a videotape or to show how it was set up. The winter cover was set up so next year I don't have an issue. Okay, so that's the 3rd panel. That went out, these went out to the cross members. That went down to there. that. These went over to there. I want to stop so you can focus on anything if you have to. Again, coming back to the very back. I also had to put in about 3 lots on either side of the mast in that area. Each rib is about 4 feet apart, and I found that during a heavy snowfall it would sag in these points, so I put these lots in. Also, the backbone has on it a pipe insulation foam gasket that helped to stop the chafe with the canvas. And I'll do the front in a little while. Here is a forestay. I didn't use any tuck tape at this point. I left it open like that. And again, a shot of the forestay with the lines from the mast wrapped at that point. You'll also see the gasket which insulates the back rib from the canvas. Okay, here's my boat. Just went through 70 knot winds with that Hurricane Sandy remnants coming through here. At this point, the only thing I've seen is that that bottle is torn out there, but the boatyard has moved my boat, so I don't know if it was during the move or during the winds. However, everything else seemed to have weathered. This, what you're looking at here, is 2 tarps split where the shrouds come down, and I'm going to take a look at the top and see what we got. Well, my lumber is still there. I think water bottles are the way to go, not tying it all the way under. It allows for proper venting too. Yeah, I have to replace this bottle here. This tarp didn't come with a grommet in this location, so I used a golf ball, tied a thing to it, but that bottle seemed to have broke off. Looks like it's beginning to snow as well. Yeah, you can see the bottles actually allow for some venting under the tarp, which is good. What I have done here at the back is take a tarp, and I use some clips to hold the last bits and tied off bottle here. Where I have gone under, I've put one bottle leading to one side and the other side, and that sort of acts as a shock absorber right there. Okay, let's go up and take a look from the underside to see what damage, if any, that the winds have done. Okay, here we are under here. There was some, where I've taped off is, I split the canvas at the shrouds. We got the outer shroud there, and we got inner shroud, the mast, and then 2 more, of course 2 shrouds on that side. At all these points it needs reinforcing. It's busted away at various locations. Let me just and at the bow is right where I split it for the forestay. But it wasn't too bad considering we got strong winds, and this was about 2 months into the winter. We did have heavy snowfalls, and it had melted off, and lots of rain. So I got out my heat gun and warmed up the areas where the tape had come away, and resealed those areas with a lot more tuck tape. which did quite well throughout the winter. And now that I have a series of grommets along these openings, I will be able to lace it up, and maybe I won't even have to use the tuck tape. She came through the winter extremely well, and I stored the frame with their matching legs and ribs together so that it would be easy to put it up again next year. I'm quite satisfied with the job that we did here, and I know that this cover, I'll be using it for quite a few years. I've seen the condition that it came through in, and we're happy with it. With a fresh coat of VC17 on the bottom, we're ready to go for another season.